Welcome to Lady Law Publishing and Mike and Joe Consulting.com. Today, our guest is
Mitch Krayton. When was the last time you took a vacation? Our guest today, Mitch Krayton, a noted speaker, author, entrepreneur, and world traveler. Mitch is a certified travel consultant, a master cruise counselor, and a verified travel advisor. His company, Krayton Travel, gets people the vacations they want and deserve. Today, we'll discuss the importance of taking time off and why you need to plan now to see all the places on your bucket list. Please help us welcome travel expert Mitch Krayton. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mitch.
It is indeed my pleasure.
That's great. So Mitch, we're going to get this started. This is your show. So I'm going to start you off by asking you, where'd you come from? How'd you get there? What are you doing now? And then you can count on us, non-travelers, to ask you probably quite a few questions.
That will be my pleasure to attempt to address as openly and positively as I possibly can. So about me, this is my third career. And I went to law school just like you, Joe, but I chose not to practice law. It didn't suit me. Even though I had my LLB, I just decided practicing law was not me. And so my first career, I worked in executive recruiting. And then from there, I fell in love with something called a Macintosh. And I fell in love with it so much, I became an Apple authorized dealer. And I did that until Apple decided that they're going to spend $10 million per location to create these fabulous Apple stores, which wouldn't have bothered me normally. But when I had one of my industry clients say, I need 25 of these latest models, and I called my distributor and they said, we don't have any. They said, what are you talking about? The new Apple store has them from floor to ceiling. So I kind of saw the handwriting on the wall. Now, my wife at the time, she was working for Princess Cruises. And we were very, very much eager to travel the world. And when you work for a cruise line, they make it almost economically impossible for you to say no to cruise. So we sailed all over the world. And then we sold our house and we said, you know, so many people we know said, we've lived in Paris and we've lived in Chicago and we've lived in Milan and we've lived in South Africa. And I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. And so we said, okay, we sold the house. Why don't we find another place to go? Well, this was way before remote working was possible. And we had checked out 11 different cities around the United States, and we came up and said, Denver, this is for us. Unfortunately, there is no port of Denver, and Princess would not allow her to work remotely. And so she had to give up the job, and we had started a travel agency, and I was supporting her with doing land tours and groups, and she was working with cruising. Well, when she left, my last name is rather uniquely spelled, and the person that replaced her was rather inept. And so they looked online for her. She never solicited, but there's no problem if people seek her out. And so they said, we want you to book our cruise. And so that's how it all began. Wow. But I tell you what, I have sort of like a bittersweet ending to this tale. So in 2014, my wife and I were planning our 45th wedding anniversary. And we invited our friends, our clients on this magical cruise. And we had a lot of them pre-booked and ready to go. And we worked out of one of our bedrooms in our home. And I said, you know, it's time for me to go to work. We were laughing at about 7 o'clock in the morning. And I go into the office and suddenly I hear her yell out, I can't breathe. Oh. And I get back into the bedroom and she had fallen off the bed onto the floor. Now, the good news is the fire department was across the street. So we were able to get EMTs over there right away, and she did get her vitals resuscitated. However, she did not retain consciousness. And for 30 days, she remained in a coma until I had to say goodbye.
Oh my goodness.
And for a year, almost two, I was incapable of doing anything. And then after a great deal of therapy and thought, I said, you know, I've got a lot of living to do, and I want to honor her. And I looked at what we had done in preparing for this trip, and then it got destroyed. And it wasn't just for me, it was everybody who was on this trip, couldn't take it. And so I got back into the travel business, and I, in her honor, said, I am going to get everybody that wants to travel to travel. Everybody deserves a vacation. Everybody is so impacted on a positive scale for their health, their mental state, all of these things, to get away from their daily routine and to go and do what they do. So I built up Krayton Travel, and I decided I was going to work to honor her name, and I've been doing that ever since.
Wow.
And so my catchphrase is, and I think you'll appreciate this, make memories, not regrets. Because that was a huge regret for everybody involved. And I said, no, we're going to make memories for everybody. And what I hear from a lot of people, and most of my clients are my vintage, I'm 73, and they say, oh, well, I have a wedding, my grandson is graduating college, this person is this, my parents need my help, a friend of mine needs a new car. And I said, so you've worked 30 years, when are you going to say you need something? And when are you going to be worthy enough to do it for you? And so I say to them, make reservations and not excuses. And you don't have to go over the world. You don't have to do that. Even 150 miles away from where we're sitting right now, you would find new streets, new signs, new businesses, a new place to have a cup of coffee. It wouldn't be the same daily routine. And you can rent a hotel for $100, $150 and spend a weekend away. Come back, and it's amazing what your perspective is. But if you want to, and most of us have bucket list itineraries, you can go anywhere. Did you want to be on the top of the Eiffel Tower? Did you want to go to the Parthenon in Rome, or even more so, did you want to go and see all the wonderful things that the world has to offer? I had 173,000 of my dearest friends at a papal presentation at the Vatican. And you had nuns and priests from all over the world, and the Pope gave his presentation in 11 languages.
Oh.
There is nothing in a book that you can read that will give you that experience.
What a tremendous experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Talk about a memory.
Well, and I can relate to every single detail, because memories never fade. Memories, you cannot spend them away. I'll give you an example. Grandmother says, oh, my grandson's graduating, I want to buy him a car. Fair enough. So you want to buy him a car. So in 3 years, if he hasn't run it into a wall or had some kind of an incident with it, it'll be worth a whole lot less than what you paid for it. But at some point, that car is going to disappear. And your gift, as great as it is, will not hold long-term memory. Here's my suggestion. Take your grandson on a vacation with you. They probably never see you except at holiday events, weddings, funerals, all the things that families get together for. I said, do they know that you can laugh, that you have a sense of humor? Do they know that you like to fish? Do they know that you enjoy watching birds? Do they have any clue who you are as a human being? And every time I've had an individual go do this, grandfather, grandmother, they come back and they said, this was the most touching experience I've ever had.
I bet.
And more than that, Their youngins cannot bankrupt it away. That is embedded here for life.
That's
And they will
amazing.
remember you for the right reason. And that's what I am all about. Life is about memories and experiences, not the transaction. So I'm not a typical travel advisor where, oh, give me a quote for this, you know? No, I don't do that. I am going to be sitting down and say, what story do you want to tell when you get back?
Hmm.
What
So
bragging rights do you want to have?
how,
And the minute I tell people that, their eyes just they glow, you know?
I can imagine that's quite a, I've never quite heard that view of travel. I mean, that's really a very unique, we overuse the word fresh, we overuse, but that's a really fresh approach. How do you help folks achieve or find their bucket list?
Well, it's a lifetime worth of dreams. And so you probably at one point said, oh, I wish I could go there. Or you had a friend go and you said, oh, I wish I could have gone. And you go, then why don't you?
Hmm.
And so, oh, well, it's the typical stuff. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't feel good. And I say, will you feel better next year? You're
Hmm.
going to have more money next year.
Wow.
Will you have more time next year? I use this simple little metric, and I hold up my fingers like this. I say, here's a piece of string. Now, you were born here, and you know you're going to die here, but we just don't know where that is. So, are you like here, here? Oh, you're here. Okay, so you're a little more or more than halfway done with what you can project as your life. Have you treated yourself to the things that you wanted? And I'm not talking about, buy the 1956 Chevy for $100,000. I'm talking about, did you do the things that hard work of 20, 30, 40 years allowed you to do, or have you denied yourself this? And you're sitting here mumbling and grumbling because you haven't, you couldn't, you wouldn't, you shouldn't. And when my wife was in the hospice, she was not recovering. I was there every single day. I got to notice two types of people. The people in the hospital, they were all on their last days. And the most common one was the person that had the family there and they were bitter. You never talked to me. We never went anywhere. I should have done this. I could have done that. You never did this for me, blah, 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 blah. Regretful, bitter.
Yeah.
They're ending their life on a sour note. And then you find there were a group of people. I'm so grateful for my life. You were in my life. We shared these experiences together. I feel fulfilled. I'm wonderful. And when it's my time, I'll be grateful for what I've experienced. Two completely different ways of interpreting the final act. You know which one I want.
Sure. Absolutely.
And when I ask people, which way would you like to exit stage right? They all say the same thing. And so I said, okay, what is it that I've got to do to get you to commit to reward yourself? You've had a good life. Well, and then they come up with the excuses again. So I have a little plan for people to do this. And they go, how can you do this? I mean, travel's expensive, travel's this, travel's that. And I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Do you know where you want to go? Have you been dreaming of something? Did you want to see the Le Mans race in Monaco? Did you want to see the World Series, at Yankee Stadium? What is it that's burning inside of you that said, oh, this would be the trip for me? Fine. Now we have some place to put the pin on the map. Okay. When did you want to do this? Well, this year's all booked, and next year, blah, blah. I said, so 2 years? Okay. You have your calendar now? Open up a calendar, and most of us have computer calendars. Go 2 years out to this day. and I want you to just black out 2 weeks. That's it. Can't use it for anything else. Black out 2 weeks. All right. So now you've made a commitment to use that 2 weeks for yourself. All right. But I don't have any money. Okay. I said, let's see. Do you go bowling? Do you go to Starbucks? Do you do all these things? Do you feel the $5, $10, $20? Do you feel that? No, not really. So I said, well, you have a checking account, and it's free to create a savings account, and you can sweep $25 a month or a week, whatever you think you can afford, hidden from your ability to spend. And if you do $25 a week for 52 weeks, anybody in the audience a mathematician? What do you got? You have $1,300. Do that for 2 years, you have $2,600. So now you have a purpose. Now you have the time, and you have $2,600 to do it with. What's the next excuse? There isn't one.
Yeah.
And in 2 years, I get the grateful call, if you didn't kick me in the behind and make me commit to doing it for me, I probably never would have done it. And I go, okay, but you did it. It's not my money. It wasn't my time. But as a coach,
Right.
I helped you live your life. And now, instead of saying, oh, darn, I missed it, now it's like, did I tell you when I went to go here? I went to the Vatican and I climbed to the top of the dome. And when you get to the top of the dome, you know that Michelangelo built it. But did you know there's a dome inside a dome? And there are stone steps between the two? And as you climb up to the top, there's a little cupola up at the top. And you realize that some monk had to go up there every night because on the top of the roof, they had candle holders. Remember, this was before electricity. And some monk had to rappel himself down to put candles on it and light it every night.
Wow.
Now, what book did you read that in?
That's right.
I climbed to the top and I saw it. 360-degree view of Rome. What a beautiful view. You can see the gardens of the Vatican better from up there than anywhere else. And so that's the kind of experiential thing that just never leaves you. And when I tell it, I can tell you viscerally got it. And what's wrong with bragging about something where you had a great experience? I know we all brag when we had a great meal. Oh, the best pasta I've ever had, the best steak. It was so juicy. Bragging rights. You can have bragging rights about where you've been, what you've experienced, what you've seen, you've smelled, you've listened to, the dances, the costuming, the smells of the city. That's not in a book. You can't see it online. You can't get it through artificial intelligence. It has to be experienced. And when you experience it, your life changes. So this is what my mission is. And I know you have started this because you want people to live a full life and you want people to have purpose. And so that's how I've looked at the travel business. Joe, you're absolutely right. I talked to all the presidents of all the cruise lines, and only one person said I'm crazy. Every other person said, you're 100% spot on.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I had hundreds of travel advisors that looked at it like you do.
All right.
And so, that's me, and that's what I've been doing. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'll do it so long as people want me to be their guide, their coach, their professional consultant on travel. I have been all over the world. Now, have I been everywhere? No, I've got bucket lists. I'm going to be going to Egypt in November. I got a VIP tour with 25 people that I'm taking along with me. I've got the best Egyptologist, and we've got VIP with a cruise down the Nile and VIP access to every Egyptian antiquity.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going to tell you this. It's $550 a night, including transportation, food, admissions, all of these things. it's the deal of the day.
That's fabulous.
And so if you don't want to do it with me, do it with somebody. But I'm going to be adding more of these that I'm taking people on because my enthusiasm is contagious, as you can tell.
It surely is.
And we pay that and more to drive to Ocean City, Maryland for, the $300 a night for the hotel, the $200 a day for the food, the gas, and whatever else we do. $500 a day is very, very inexpensive
Well,
for that type of experience.
well, you're talking about nothing against Ocean City, Maryland. I love it. But you're talking about Ocean City, Maryland versus Cradle of Civilization. I mean,
Thank you. I mean, we're going to ride a camel. We're going inside the Great Pyramid. We're going to stand between the paws of the Great Sphinx. We're taking a felucca ride. The felucca is the old style river ship with the triangular sail. All native Egyptian foods.
oh my gosh.
If
Well,
you
that
tried to
sounds,
plan this, it would be beaucoup dollars.
oh, I can't imagine. That
and
sounds,
you wouldn't have this Egyptologist as your leader.
no,
He speaks perfect English, great humor, but he
Oh.
knows his history.
that's incredible. Well, the Egypt trip sounds like, to use a cliche, the trip of a lifetime, certainly. But up until this point, what trip stands out in your mind when you think of your travel history?
Well, they always ask me what's my favorite. My favorite is always the next one. But
Oh.
I have been on the Seine River and going from Paris to the beaches of Normandy broke your heart. You
Imagine.
stand on the beaches of Normandy today, and it was like it was before the Second World War.
Oh boy.
But you see the remnants of the artillery, and you see the stories. And when you see where all these gun mounts were, and these young men and women came off these ships, the boat panel came down, and they literally were mowed down. The fact that any of them made it on shore is an absolute miracle. And what most Americans don't appreciate, I mean, well, there's a whole backstory about how we faked the Germans and they retreated a lot, but they
Mhm.
still left the gunnery positions there. But if we had failed in that mission, you and I would be speaking German right about now.
Yeah.
It was that critical.
Truly.
And they tried sail planing in, which was no problem. But they forgot that they had big thorny bushes separating all of the property in France. So they got down, they would parachute, and then they couldn't cut through the trees. They were too thick. and again, I could watch the History Channel all day long and never get this story. And so I'll give you one more story that just sits with me in my heart. So many people say, oh, the French people, they hate Americans and all this stuff. So I was in Paris, and I was invited to Chartres, which is south of Paris, and has the famed Chartres Cathedral, and it has the maze that you walk through, amazing stained glass. Well, there was an organ concert. So you have these gorgeous organs built into these stone churches, and we heard incredible music. Well, when the concert was over, went through a walk through Chartres. What do you think you would expect? So we're walking about a quarter of a mile down the hill, and there's churches everywhere. I mean, churches were, it's like the 7-Eleven, they were everywhere. So all of a sudden, I'm spying an American GI Jeep, and there are people wearing American uniforms. And there is a parachuter hanging from a steeple. And they were reenacting when the Americans parachuted in to the heart of the French resistance, which was in Chartres. And they uplifted all the French to fight back very, very strong. When we identified ourselves as being from the United States, they circled us and said, "We're buying you a beer." And for me, and they said, "We do this every year. We will never let that memory disappear." Now, how can people say the French hate you? They celebrate you. And you'd go to the memorial of the U.S. cemetery in Normandy, just row after row of all these people. And the French government gave that land to the United States. It's a little piece of trivia. That's the only United States land that you need no passport or visa to visit.
Oh my gosh.
There's no guard. So, and it's just so beautifully maintained. So again, I'm blessed. I've traveled a lot. I've seen a lot. I've been in Vietnam. I've been in Cambodia. All of these places where people have these concerns. And I said, you know what? There are people there every day that get up, they have breakfast, they do their work, they eat a midday meal, they have an evening meal with the family. They're humans living their life. And you just sit down and have a conversation with them. Some of the most beautiful conversations I've ever had in my life. And all of the myths just disappear.
Yeah.
I would imagine you have a set of destinations for people that are young at heart, feeling good, but their limbs just aren't working the way they used to. I used to love that TV commercial with the older guy sitting on the top step of the Mayan temples and saying, oh, why didn't I do this 40 years ago? So do
Well,
you have
you're
that?
you're not going to find a place like Rome or in the Mayan areas of Mexico that are going to be flat. There is no Americans with Disabilities Act other than the United States. Even Canada doesn't have such a thing, although most countries have tried to have cuts in the sidewalk. Most countries have tried to make things more level, or at least have ramps to accommodate people. But like a city like Paris is, it's flat. You can navigate in a wheelchair in Paris very easily. You can walk from the Notre Dame Cathedral all the way down to the Arc de Triomphe, and then all the way down to the Champs-Élysées. It's flat.
Well,
So it's doable.
You have beyond inspired me by what I mean that sincerely by what you've said. So if someone's listening to us, so if our listeners are listening here, and they have an absolute plan, they know they want to go to Madrid, or traveler number two, listener number two says, I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't even know where to start. Can both of those people contact you? And what would you do for each of them?
Well, the first thing I want to do is know what their motivation is. And some people I've always wanted to do this motivation. Some people are saying, Mitch, you really inspired me, and so I'll go anywhere.
That's me.
And I said, okay, here's a globe, let me spin it. I'm giving you a dart, throw it. And I said, it could be London, or it could be the Sahara Desert. You're throwing a dart. Oh, well, so we have some other parameters here. So we're going to look to see, are you going for the food? Are you going for the beer and the wine? Are you going for the Instagram photos? Are you going because you're in love with the architecture and the history? What is it that you would like to explore? And then what are your abilities to do it? Do you want to do this on your own? I tell you, don't do it. Get yourself a guide. The guide has VIP access to everything, and a little sidebar. So the first time I saw the David when I was in Italy, I didn't realize that I could get a VIP access, and I lost 2.5 hours standing in the hot sun waiting for my turn.
Oh boy.
And you can make more money, but you can't get more time.
Yeah.
So if you've got 2 weeks and I'm giving up a full day of waiting in queues, really? And the farther away you go, the more precious that time is. If you go to Australia, if you go to New Zealand, if you go up to Iceland or down to Antarctica, that time is precious. You don't want to be wasting it standing in line.
No.
And so that's part of what I sit down and I explain. You probably would not spend this money on a day-to-day basis. You would probably not go to a Ritz-Carlton to visit your aunt or your brother, but it's a lifetime trip. Maybe you want to have better quality. Maybe you want to be center of the community so you don't have to spend all your day on a bus going to and from.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of the tours are inexpensive because the hotels are in the fringe of the city. And I
Sure.
said, you know what that means? 2 hours in, 2 hours out, you've lost half a day.
Yeah.
So you're going to spend more, but you're going to have more. And you'll have better quality food and better quality service, all of those things. And then bragging rights that I stayed at the Four Seasons or I stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. You know, and people go, well, who can afford that? And I said, there's 350 Ritz-Carltons around the world.
Sure.
And the cheapest room is $350 a night. They're never empty. So somebody's paying for that. Why not you on your bucket list?
Yeah.
Bragging rights
Exactly.
instead of complaining. I don't want to hear that the water was cold. I don't want to hear that you had problems with air conditioning. I want to hear you had the greatest time of your life.
And a little bit of luxury. A little bit of
Well,
luxury.
you're entitled to be pampered.
That's right.
You know, you're
Absolutely.
entitled to have good food and people remember who you are.
Yeah.
Now, I will say to you, I have a specialty, and my specialty after all these years is small ship cruising.
Hmm.
That doesn't say that I won't put somebody on a Princess ship or a Royal Caribbean ship, but typically the cruises that I recommend to folks are under 600 passengers
Mhm.
because you're going to get off that ship quicker, you're going to get on that ship quicker. Every time you come back on that ship, they're going to remember you.
Yeah. Oh,
let me
sure.
give you a little story. So first time we had breakfast on one ship, and I noticed somebody had a French press for coffee, and I said, "Is that available to me?" "Oh, absolutely."
Oh, nice.
What do you think happened the next morning when I went to breakfast?
It
It
was
was
there.
already on the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's not Holiday Inn.
No.
That's Ritz-Carlton. Okay, and I just told it to you, which means I remembered it and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
So this
Absolutely.
is to me the value of travel. It just telling these stories is so emotionally fulfilling.
Oh, you
And
could.
I have one other thing that I do, and I don't know that I put this in my background for you. I tell stories to elementary school kids once a month during the term. And wherever I go into a child bookstore, and invariably I say, "Do you have any of the fairy tales or the folk tales done in English?" And there's always this little section over here with English translated fairy tale, folk tales from Cambodia, from France, from wherever, Chile. And you know, Cinderella is Cinderella, but they have different characters, different place names, different events, but it's the same idea. And yet the kids love it. And then I say, "Does this remind you of anything?" "Oh, Cinderella." "Well, Cinderella was Brothers Grimm. That's German stuff. You didn't even know it was German. You think it's Walt Disney."
Exactly.
So,
Wow.
so for me, that's another way of my giving back is enlightening the kids in the classroom. And today in the diverse classrooms, I told the story when I came back from Africa, and I said, this is from the Zulus who live here, and this kid goes, "That's my family."
Yeah.
Nobody had ever said anything
Yeah.
that was in their world.
Hmm. You're
Made
just
a huge difference.
broadening that world. So what we have, I'm sure, we now have a whole bunch of listeners who are ready to travel. How do they reach you, Mitch?
Well, I have a website, kraytontravel.com, Krayton travel.com. If you're watching this on video, I have a QR code on my screen, and you can just put up a phone, and there it is. I would be happy to have a discovery call with anybody. You know, let's figure out, am I the right consultant for you? Because if I'm not right, Well, I can recommend another one or two of my colleagues. I've been in this long enough that I have a couple recommendations I can give you. You don't have to be in Colorado. I have clients all over the US.
Yeah.
But if I am right, it'll be my pleasure.
Oh,
Totally my pleasure. And the way I want to know that I did a good job is the stories you tell me when you get back.
And the
I
bragging that you do
that's great.
that bring more people to you and more people to fulfill their bucket list.
Yes, yes, because I've become a trusted advisor. I didn't sell them a transaction. I was legitimate and I listened, just like you, Joe. You said your chief skill was listening. I listened. I listen.
It is.
You know, even in my limited scope of what I do, there's 150 some odd ships I have to understand.
Sure.
And each of them have their own character and their own qualities and their own drawbacks. And it's like, fine. You know, I went on an Alaskan cruise many times on Princess, but I went on this one ship that had a capacity of 50, and there were 24 of us on board.
Oh,
This
wow.
ship was so intimate, you didn't have locks on the doors.
Wow.
So we're coming back. It started. It started in. I want to say Sitka, but it wasn't Sitka. And so we went around Admiralty Island, which is the largest island in the coast there, and we're about ready to come back home. And all these major cruise lines just zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. They have their appointment to go, you know, their docking time and all this stuff. And we're sitting there, and the captain gets on the horn and he says, "Take a look to the left. No, to the right. No, behind us." He said, "You can't miss it. We have gray whales that are breaching, spouting. They are playing with their fins, and they are bubble feeding,
Oh.
and we're just going to hang around for a while." Well, I don't know if you've ever seen a big animal feed like a gray whale, but they go down in the water, and in their spout, they create a little basket of bubbles, and it goes up like this, and the krill get disoriented. And the whale goes down into the water, and as it comes up, it opens its mouth,
Oh.
does this, and all the water goes out except the krill stay. Now, I have to tell you, 5 feet in front of me, this whale jumps up.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody on those big ships saw it.
No. No.
And we were doing this for 2.5 hours. The chef gets on the horn. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's our final dinner. I have made king crab legs for you. So please come down and eat. It is ready."
Oh,
Nobody wanted to go down.
I'm
So
sure.
the captain says, "I promise you that we will stick around after you've had the food. If these whales are out here, we'll be out here." We
Wow.
spent a total of 5.5 hours. We get down into the kitchen or into the dining room area, and this one whale just does this right by the window, just jumps out over the water and does a spin. I'm telling you this happened 4 years ago. I'm just saying. But you can't forget something like that. Never happened on the big ships that I took.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You'll never forget something like that, and you'll never get that experience on one of those, you know, go 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 of my best friends on the 50, you know, deck boat, whatever. And I don't think you'd ever get that experience if you were a novice traveler. I mean, how do you pick out, how do you 150 of these small ships?
Well, you're seeing advertising on TV, and they're showing you all the pools and
Yeah, but
you know, everything, and you go, okay, this is fine if I'm 17.
right.
But what if I'm
Yeah.
over 55? Do I
Yeah,
really want to climb a rock wall? You
you
know,
know,
do I want to
exactly.
surf on a cruise? Do I want to drive a race car on a cruise ship? And some people will say, yeah. And I say, it's fine. Do it once. But
Right.
if you really like that thing, you know, Disney World has it too. It doesn't float, but it has everything that the ship has. And so you don't need to be on a ship. But if you want to go visit a destination, speak with people. Oh, we just came back from the Caribbean. I said, really? Yeah. Oh, we went to the Bahamas. Did you like it? I said, yeah. Okay. How many Bahamians did you meet?
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
What?
Yeah.
They met nobody who lives there.
And you're making such an investment of your time and your money and everything else. You want the maximum experience, I'm sure. Well, I can't tell you what an absolute pleasure this has been. I've learned a tremendous amount. I know our listeners have.
This is the longest I've been silent in a long time.
Long time.
I'm going to say, Michael, you had nothing to say. I got you gobsmacked.
Well, no, you did. I was just living vicariously through your experiences.
Fabulous.
And it was just fabulous.
Yeah.
So one more
I'm
time.
nobody special. I just had the intention to do it. And
Well, that's why I related to you. I'm not special either.
Tell us again the contact.
So tell us again. We're going to end the show for today. So tell us again. How do we get hold of you?
My email is mitch@kraytontravel.com. If you're on LinkedIn or you're on Facebook, you can look for me, Mitch Krayton. I am there. All of my credentials are there. Ways to reach out to me are there. And I will be happy to schedule a discovery call, get to know you, let you know whether or not I'm the right travel advisor for you. If you want, I'll help make a recommendation. If I am, I will help you get the vacation you want and deserve, and it'll be my mission to help you make memories and not regrets.
That's fantastic. And when we get this up, you will be on our YouTube page. You will be on the podcast page, and in the description is going to be all your information, the website, and how to get a hold of you. So in closing, let me just say to you, Mitch, and to all the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us today on Lady Law Publishing LLC and MikeandJoeConsulting.com. We're going to sign off now. And Mitch, God bless you. And I'm hoping to have a drink with you somewhere while we're watching whales breach the water.
It would be my honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mitch.
you.
You're both welcome. Thanks,
Have
everybody.
a great evening.